On the cracked surface of Virelli's moon, under two red suns that never set, Lila moved like a shadow through the ruins. Her silver armor, woven from threads older than most star systems, caught the dim light but made no sound. Runes glowed faintly along her arms and chest, pulsing with each breath she took. She was tall, with pointed ears and eyes the color of twilight, violet, deep and watchful. Once her name had been sung in war halls across the Coalition. Now few dared speak it. At her side, coiled close like a living cloak, was Ember. The dragon was no bigger than a large dog, but his presence filled the air with heat and tension. His scales were black as cooled lava, shimmering with hints of red when he shifted. His eyes, golden and slit-pupiled, never stopped scanning. He didn't bark or growl. He didn't need to. His silence was warning enough. They had come to this dead place because of a whisper, not a sound, but a signal. A faint pulse buried in the static of old comms channels. It came from the remains of Outpost Theta 9, once a human forward base before the Great Silence fell. Humans had vanished from the galaxy 5 cycles ago. Officially, they were wiped out in the final battle of Helios Prime, their fleets destroyed, their worlds burned, their species declared extinct by the Coalition Council. But Lila had never believed it. She stopped at the edge of the rubble field. Broken walls leaned like broken teeth. Rusted metal groaned in the thin wind. Nothing grew here. Nothing lived. Except perhaps ghosts. Ember lifted his head. A low hum vibrated in his chest. Lila felt it through her boots. Danger. Or memory. She stepped forward. Her boots crunched on shattered glass and warped plating. The outpost had not just been destroyed, it had been erased. No bodies, no weapons, no signs of struggle. Just emptiness, as if the humans had folded themselves out of existence. Then she saw it. A small data node, half buried under a collapsed console. It was human-made, sleek and smooth, still blinking with a weak green light. Impossible. Everything human should have been scavenged or melted down by now. Yet this remained, waiting. Lila knelt. Ember stayed close, his tail curling around her leg like a shield. She reached for the node. The moment her fingers touched it, a voice crackled to life. Not from the device, but inside her mind, carried through her neural link. If you're hearing this, you're not one of them. The voice was calm. Female, young but tired. It spoke standard galactic but with an old Earth accent. Soft vowels, gentle rhythm. My name is Maya. I don't know if you're friend or ghost, but if you're Elven, you'll understand what I'm about to say. The humans didn't lose. We left. And we left this for those who might listen. Lila froze. Her breath caught. Ember's hum deepened into a warning growl. The voice continued. They think we're gone. They want us gone. But we're watching. And we remember who stood with us. And who turned away. Then silence. The node's light flickered and died. Lila sat back on her heels, heart pounding. She had spent years hunting rumors, chasing echoes. Now proof. Not just proof that humans survived, but that they had planned it. That their defeat was a lie. But why leave a message for elves? Why for her? She remembered Helios Prime. The smoke. The screams. The way the human lines held even when their ships were burning. She remembered a medic with short brown hair and steady hands pulling her from wreckage, stitching her side with thread and quiet jokes. That woman had called her Sister of the Storm. Lila never learned her name. She vanished the next day. Now, another human voice reached across the void. Maya. Before she could process it further, Ember stiffened. His head snapped toward the eastern ridge. Lila followed his gaze. Dust rose in the distance. Not wind. Vehicles, Coalition scouts. They'd been tracked. The node must have triggered a beacon when activated, or perhaps they'd been watched all along. Lila stood quickly, tucking the dead node into a pouch at her belt. We go, now! Ember didn't hesitate. He unfolded his wings, leathery and veined with fire glow, and took to the air in a single powerful leap. Lila sprinted toward a narrow canyon to the west, her armor light but strong, her movements fluid from decades of war. Behind her, engines roared. Hover skiffs crested the ridge, their hulls marked with the jagged sigil of the Catharian forcers, loyalists to the Coalition High Command. They weren't here for salvage. They were here for her. She ducked into the canyon, shadows swallowing her whole. Ember circled above, silent as smoke. The skiffs slowed at the entrance, scanners sweeping the rock walls. Lila of Silthar, a voice boomed through a speaker. You are ordered to surrender. You are in violation of Galactic Edict 7 Alpha. No contact with human remnants or artifacts. She didn't answer. She pressed herself against the cold stone, listening. 3 skiffs, 6 soldiers, standard patrol but armed for capture, not kill. That meant they wanted her alive, and that meant they knew more than they let on. Why would the Coalition care about a dead outpost unless they feared what it might reveal? She thought of Maya's words. They want us gone. Who was they? The Coalition Council? The Cathari? Someone higher? Ember landed softly on a ledge above her. He lowered his head, eyes locking with hers. A question, a plan? She nodded once. With a flick of her wrist, she activated a rune on her gauntlet. The canyon floor trembled. Ancient elven tech, buried long ago by her people as a failsafe, responded to her bloodline. Cracks spread through the rock. Dust rained from the ceiling. The lead skiff hovered closer. Last warning, Elf. Surrender the artifact. Lila stepped into the open. I have no artifact. Only truth. The Enforcer commander, a Cathari with scarred mandibles and cold eyes, raised a stun rifle. Truth is what the council says it is. Then your truth is already dead, she said. She slammed her palm onto the ground. The canyon floor split open. A geyser of superheated steam erupted from below, blasting the skiffs with blinding vapor and scalding rock. Alarms shrieked. Soldiers shouted. One skiff spun out of control and crashed into the wall. Ember dove. Not with fire. Elves and dragons of his line did not burn unless necessary, but with sonic force. He opened his mouth and released a deep, resonant pulse. The sound wave shattered sensors, cracked viewports, and sent the remaining soldiers reeling, clutching their heads. Lila didn't wait. She ran deeper into the canyon, leaping over fissures and scaling narrow ledges with ease. Ember followed, wings folded tight against his body. They didn't stop until they reached a hidden cave system known only to the old elven scouts. Inside, the air was cool and still. Bioluminescent moss lined the walls, casting a soft blue glow. She leaned against the stone, breathing hard. Ember curled beside her, his warmth a comfort against the chill. She pulled out the note again. Dead. But the message remained in her mind. Maya. The name felt like a key. Why had the humans left this for elves? Because elves remembered. Because elves did not rewrite history to suit power. Because in the final days of the war, it was elven ships that shielded human refugees while the Coalition bombed evacuation routes. Lila closed her eyes. She saw faces, human faces, laughing, bleeding, fighting. Not as enemies, but as allies, as friends. The Coalition had painted humans as reckless, chaotic, too emotional for galactic order. But Lila had seen their courage, their sacrifice, their strange, stubborn hope. And now someone named Maya was reaching out from the dark. She looked at Ember. They think the story is over. But it's just beginning. The dragon blinked slowly, then rested his head on her knee. A promise. A vow. Outside, the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across Varellis. Somewhere in the galaxy, humans were still alive, and someone knew the truth. Lila would find them, not for war, not for glory, but because silence was the enemy's greatest weapon, and she refused to let it win. She stood, adjusted her armor, and checked her weapons. 2 plasma daggers, a pulse bow, enough runes to level a small fortress, and a dragon who could shake the sky. They would move at night, head for the outer rim, where signals were weak and watchers were few. Maya's message had mentioned coordinates hidden in the subharmonics. Lila would decode them. She had to. As she stepped back into the fading light, Ember at her side, the wind carried a whisper. Not from the past, but from the future. And for the first time in years, Lila felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. Lila and Ember drifted through the void aboard a stolen scout skiff, its hull patched with elven resin and old human alloy. The ship was small, silent, and fast, perfect for ghosts. They had left Varellis behind. But the message from Maya clung to Lila's thoughts like a second skin. She replayed the words again and again, searching for hidden meaning in the pauses, the tone, the silence between syllables. The coordinates were faint, buried in the signal's harmonic layer. It took Ember's keen hearing and Lila's rune-tuned mind to pull them free. They pointed to Sector 9 Gamma, a graveyard of dead stations and forgotten supply lines. At its heart floated the derelict orbital known as Echo 7, once a human science outpost, now just another tomb in the dark. They arrived under cover of a solar storm. Charged particles danced across the skiff's shields, masking their approach. Echo 7 hung in the black like a broken bone. Twisted metal, shattered viewports, no lights. No movement. But Lila felt it, something alive in the silence. Ember perched on her shoulder as she suited up. His claws dug gently into her armor. A silent reminder. Be ready. They docked in a maintenance bay, the airlock groaning as it sealed. Inside, the station smelled of rust, ozone, and something else. Clean, sharp, like rain on dry stone. Human Lila moved slowly, boots magnetized to the deck. Every step echoed. Ember stayed close, his heat a small sun against the cold. They passed empty labs, collapsed corridors, rooms frozen in time. A coffee cup sat on a desk, half full. A child's drawing taped to a bulkhead. Stick figures holding hands under a yellow sun. Earth. Then they found the logs. In the central command room, a terminal flickered weakly. Not powered by the station's core, by something else. Lila touched the screen. It lit up, responding to her biometrics. Not hers, human, but it accepted her. Video files played. Grainy, damaged but clear enough. A woman with short black hair and tired eyes spoke directly to the camera. If you're seeing this, you made it past the silence fields. Good. My name is Claire. I was head medic here. We knew they were coming. Not the Coalition. Something worse. Lila's breath caught. Claire. The name from Helios Prime. The medic who saved her. They called us reckless, Claire continued, voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. But we saw what the others refused to. Out past the rim, beyond the mapped stars, there's a presence. It feeds on war, on hate. The more we fought, the stronger it grew. We tried to warn the Council. They called us paranoid, so we chose another path. The screen glitched. For a second, Lila saw something behind Claire. A shadow that moved wrong, that bent the light around it. Then it was gone. We didn't run, we hid. We erased ourselves so it would lose the trail. But someone has to remember the truth. Not just that we survived, but why. The log ended. Lila stood frozen. Ember nudged her hand with his snout. She looked down. Her fingers were trembling. Then the station hummed, not from the terminal, from deeper inside. A low, rhythmic pulse like a heartbeat. They followed it through winding halls, past sealed bulkheads that opened at Ember's touch, his claws glowing faintly as he traced old human security runes. Finally, they reached the core chamber. In the center of the room floated a sphere of light, no bigger than a child's head. It pulsed gently, casting soft patterns on the walls. Inside the light, a face formed, pale skin, dark eyes, braided hair. A girl, maybe 10 years old. Hello, Lila, the girl said. Her voice was calm, layered with echoes. I've been waiting. Lila raised a dagger. Who are you? My name is Nora. I am the last guardian of Echo 7, and the last voice of the human dream. Ember growled low, but did not attack. He sensed no threat, only sorrow. Nora drifted closer. You knew Claire. She spoke of you, the elf who fought beside her when the sky burned. Lila lowered her blade slightly. She saved my life, and you carry her truth now, Nora said. But the Coalition is hunting you. They know you have the signal. They fear what it means. Why leave this for me? Lila asked. Because elves remember. Nora replied. You do not rewrite the past to suit the powerful. You honor it, even when it hurts. Suddenly, alarms blared. Not from the station, but from Lila's skiff. Intruders. Coalition forces. They'd been tracked. Lila cursed under her breath. How many? 3 skiffs. Killer reinforcers, led by Commander Vorik, Nora said. Her light dimmed. He was at Helios Prime, too. He watched the humans burn and called it justice. Ember hissed, wings flaring. We can't fight them here, Lila said. You don't have to, Nora replied. There's a shuttle bay on Deck 4, hidden. Claire left it for emergencies. It has a cloaking drive and enough fuel to reach Silthar. Silthar, the ice world, home of the Truth Keepers. They will protect you, Lila hesitated. Silthar was deep in neutral space, but dangerous. Many who went there never returned. Yet staying meant death. Show us the way, she said. Nora's light stretched into a path on the floor, glowing faintly. Hurry, they're breaching the outer hull. They ran. The station shook as boarding charges detonated. Klaxons wailed. Ember flew ahead, scouting turns, his heat masking their trail. Lila followed, heart pounding, the weight of Claire's words heavy in her chest. They reached Deck 4 just as Cathari soldiers stormed the corridor behind them. Plasma bolts sizzled past, scorching the walls. Lila shoved Nora's core into a shielded case on her belt. Ember landed beside her, snarling. The shuttle was small, white, shaped like a teardrop. Human design. Lila recognized the markings, Project Phoenix. A last resort escape craft. She leapt inside, Ember coiling at her feet. The door sealed just as the first enforcer rounded the corner. Engines roared to life. The shuttle shot out of the bay, dodging debris and incoming fire. Lila gripped the controls, hands steady despite the chaos. Behind them, Echo 7 exploded, not from enemy fire, from within. Nora had triggered the self-destruct, a final act of protection. The blast lit up the void, a silent flower of fire and memory. Lila didn't look back. She set course for Silther, the ice world at the edge of known space. As they jumped to warp, Nora's voice whispered in her mind. They taught us how to dream, and how to lie. Lila closed her eyes. Claire's face filled her thoughts, not as a ghost, but as a guide. The Coalition thought the war was over. They thought humans were gone, but dreams do not die. They hide. They wait. And now, Lila carried one. Ember rested his head on her lap, his warmth a promise. They would reach Silther. They would find the Truth Keepers. And they would learn what the humans truly sacrificed and why. In the quiet dark between stars, the shuttle flew on. A tiny spark against the endless night, and somewhere far away, another signal pulsed, waiting, watching, remembering. The ice fields of Silthar stretched forever, white and silent under a pale blue sun. Wind howled across the frozen plains, carving shapes into the snow like ancient runes. In the heart of this wasteland stood the sanctuary, a low dome of fused crystal and reclaimed ship metal, half buried in the ice. It had no name. Those who came here did not need one. Lila stepped out of the shuttle, her breath fogging in the cold. Ember followed, his scales steaming slightly, his claws crunching on the frost. Nora's core glowed softly in the pouch at Lila's side, pulsing in time with the wind. The door opened before she could knock. An old man stood there, wrapped in furs stitched with data threads. His eyes were milky but sharp. He nodded once. "You carry ghosts," he said. "And truth," Lila replied. He stepped aside. "Then come in. The council waits." Inside, warmth wrapped around her like a blanket. The walls hummed with old tech, human, elven, Cathari, all woven together. Scholars moved quietly, tending to archives that held forbidden knowledge. Some glanced at Lila with recognition, others with fear. They led her to a circular chamber beneath the dome. 5 figures sat in a ring, elders of the Truth Keepers. Among them was a woman with silver hair and hands covered in scars. She stood as Lila entered. "I am Alara," she said. "We have heard your name, and the name you seek." Lila unhooked Nora's core and placed it on the central table. The light bloomed, forming the girl's face once more. "Claire sent you," Alara said softly. "And others?" Nora replied. "Brianna, Danielle, Maya. They all left pieces of the story." Alara nodded. She tapped a console. A hologram flickered to life. Star maps, battle logs, encrypted files. All human, all hidden for years. "The Coalition says humans were destroyed at Helios Prime," Alara began. "But we know better. They staged their fall, not out of fear, but mercy." She pulled up a file labeled Project Veil. It showed schematics of human ships rerouting power, faking explosions, scattering decoy signals. Then came voice logs. A woman's voice, calm, firm. "This is Commander Brianna of the SS Perseverance. To all human units, initiate Veil Protocol. Leave no trace. Let them think us gone. It is the only way to starve the hunger." "The hunger," Lila whispered. "Yes," Alara said. "The entity beyond the rim. It feeds on conflict. The more war there is, the stronger it grows. Humans discovered it during deep-range scans. They tried to warn the Coalition. The Council called it myth, so the humans chose silence." Lila remembered the shadow behind Claire in the log, the thing that bent light. Her stomach tightened. "They didn't just vanish," Nora added. "They scattered. Some went into cryosleep on hidden arcs. Others merged with A networks. A few became watchers like me." Ember lay down beside Lila, his eyes half closed but alert. He sensed the weight in the room. The grief. The resolve. Alara pulled up another file. This one showed a human child's drawing, same as the one on Echo 7, but with writing underneath. "We are not gone. We are waiting for peace to grow. Peace cannot grow in a galaxy that glorifies war, Alara said. The coalition built its power on the idea that humans were chaotic, dangerous. Without that enemy, their control weakens. So they hunt any trace of humanity, and anyone who protects it. Lila understood now. Her presence here was not just dangerous, it was revolutionary. Then alarms blared through the sanctuary, soft but urgent. They found us, Ilara said, not surprised. Nora's light dimmed. Vorak, he tracked the shuttle's warp signature. Lila stood. How long minutes? Ember rose, wings flaring slightly. His hum filled the chamber. Ilara turned to Lila. You must take the core files. Everything we have. Get to the data spire on the North Ridge. It can broadcast the truth across the network if you activate it. And we stay. We delay them. It is our purpose, Lila wanted to argue, but she saw the resolve in their eyes. These people had spent lifetimes guarding this secret. Now they would die for it. She nodded. Show me the way. Ilara handed her a small crystal drive. All the logs. All the proof. Brianna's final orders. Claire's last message, everything. Lila tucked it into her armor. Nora's core returned to her pouch. They moved fast. Through ice tunnels lit by bioluminescent moss. Ember led, his heat melting thin layers of frost. Above, the sky darkened. Skiffs approached. At the tunnel's end, the North Ridge rose like a frozen wave. The data spire stood at its peak, a slender tower of black glass humming with dormant power. Once you activate it, Ilara said, the signal will go everywhere. Every newsfeed. Every military channel. Every school. They won't be able to stop it. But they'll kill me before I reach the top, Lila said. Not if Ember helps, Nora whispered. The dragon looked at Lila. Then he crouched low. A silent offer. She climbed onto his back. His scales warmed beneath her. Go, Ilara said. Carry the truth. Lila gripped Ember's spines. He leapt into the air just as the first plasma bolt struck the ridge behind them. Cathari skiffs circled like vultures. Vorak's voice boomed from a speaker. Lila of Silthar, you betray the coalition. Surrender the human filth or burn with it. Ember banked hard, dodging fire. Lila held on, heart racing. The spire was close, only 100 meters up. Then a shot hit Ember's wing. He cried out, a sound like cracking stone, and spiraled downward. They crashed into the snow. Lila rolled, shielding Nora's core. Ember struggled to rise, blood steaming on the ice. Vorak landed nearby, flanked by enforcers. His armor was black, his eyes cold. You always were sentimental, elf, he sneered. Fighting for ghosts. They're not ghosts, Lila said, standing. They're teachers, she drew her daggers. Runes flared along her arms. Vorak laughed. You think truth matters? Power is truth, and the coalition has it. He raised his rifle, but before he could fire, the ground shook. From the sanctuary, a pulse of light erupted. Ilara and the Truth Keepers had triggered their final defense, an elven resonance bomb. It didn't kill. It erased. Memories. Tech. Signals. The Cathari soldiers clutched their heads, screaming as their neural links fried. Vorak staggered, his weapon flickering. Lila didn't wait. She ran for the spire, dragging Ember with her. His wing was torn, but he limped beside her, growling through the pain. They reached the base. Lila slammed the crystal drive into the port. Nora's voice filled the air. Uploading truth package. All channels. All sectors. Initiating. Vorak recovered. He charged, rifle blazing. Lila turned, daggers crossed. They clashed in the snow, steel on steel. Elf against Cathari. He was strong, but she was faster. She slashed his arm, then his leg. He fell to one knee. You lose, she said. No, he spat. You doom the galaxy. Without an enemy, chaos returns. Chaos is better than lies, she replied. She drove a dagger into his shoulder, not to kill, but to pin him. Then she turned back to the spire. The tower glowed brighter. Light shot into the sky, splitting into thousands of beams. Across the galaxy, screens flickered. Voices spoke. Claire's, Brianna's, Maya's. Children laughing. Songs. Lullabies. The sound of rain on earth. The truth was free. Ember lay at the base of the spire, breathing hard. Lila knelt beside him, pressing her hand to his wound. Warmth flowed from her runes, sealing the tear. Above them, the sky filled with light, not fire, but memory. Vorak watched, silent now. Something in his eyes changed. Not defeat. Understanding, Lila helped Ember stand. They looked toward the horizon. The sanctuary was gone, collapsed into the ice. Ilara and the others were at peace. Nora's voice whispered in Lila's mind. They taught us how to dream and how to lie, but you taught us how to remember. Lila touched the spire one last time. Then she and Ember walked away into the white silence. The war was not over, but the lie was. And somewhere in the dark between stars, a human child smiled in her sleep, knowing the truth had finally come home. After the truth spilled across the galaxy, silence fell. Not the kind that hides secrets, but the kind that follows a storm. Worlds that once cheered the Coalition's victory now whispered in doubt. Soldiers questioned orders. Scholars dug through old records. Children asked why humans were called monsters when their songs sounded like hope. But the Coalition did not crumble. It hardened. From the high spire on Cathar Prime, the Council declared Lila an enemy of order. They branded her a mythweaver, a traitor who spread chaos with lies wrapped in light. And they sent their sharpest weapon, the Void Reapers. These were not soldiers. They were hunters, biomechanical beings forged in black labs shaped from dead stars and stolen dreams. They moved without sound, fed on fear, and erased anything that carried human memory. Their eyes glowed red. Their touch turned tech to dust. Lila knew they would come. She and Ember had taken refuge on Jara, a desert moon where the sands shifted like time itself. They lived in the bones of an old freighter half buried in dunes, its hull scorched by forgotten battles. Nora's core rested in a cradle of woven wire, humming softly as she monitored the data streams. "They are close," Nora said one evening, her light dimming with worry. 3 Reapers, tracking your biosignature." Lila sharpened her daggers by firelight. "Let them come." Ember lay nearby, his wing healed but still stiff. He watched the horizon, golden eyes unblinking. He remembered the pain. He would not let it happen again. 2 nights later, the sandstorm came. Not natural. The Reapers bent the wind to hide their approach. Lila felt it first, a wrongness in the air, a silence too deep. She stood. Ember rose beside her. They walked into the storm. The canyon ahead was narrow, carved by ancient floods. Red rock walls rose like prison bars. Lila had chosen it well. No room for the Reapers to flank. Only one way in, one way out. She stood in the center, arms loose, daggers sheathed. Ember coiled at her feet, wings folded tight. Then they came. 3 figures emerged from the swirling sand, tall, skeletal, their bodies made of shifting metal and shadow. No faces, only eyes, burning red. The lead Reaper spoke. Its voice was many voices at once, human, Cathari, elven, all twisted into something cold. "Lila of Siltar, you carry forbidden memory. Surrender it, or be unmade." Lila did not answer. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small stone, smooth, gray, carved with a single rune. Claire had given it to her on Helios Prime. "For when you need to remember who you fight for," she'd said. Lila crushed it in her palm. The rune flared. The canyon floor trembled. Hidden elven wards buried centuries ago awakened. Sand turned to glass beneath the Reaper's feet. They hissed, stumbling back. Ember struck first. He leapt into the air, not with fire, but with sound. He opened his mouth and released a deep rolling cry, a frequency older than language. The walls of the canyon shook. Cracks spread through the rock. Dust rained down. But the Reapers did not fall. They adapted. Their forms shifted, absorbing the vibration. The second Reaper lunged at Lila. She drew her daggers, meeting its claws with steel. Sparks flew. The force of the blow sent her skidding back. Her arms burned. These things were stronger than anything she'd faced. The third Reaper moved toward Ember. It raised a hand and the dragon froze. Not from fear, from memory. The Reaper projected images into his mind. Helios Prime burning, Claire falling, humans screaming as ships exploded. Ember roared in pain. Lila saw it, saw the truth in his eyes. The Reapers didn't just hunt. They weaponized grief. She changed tactics. She stopped fighting to win. She fought to reach Ember. Dodging a swipe from the first Reaper, she rolled and sprinted toward her dragon. The second Reaper intercepted, but she threw a rune-charged blade. It stuck in its chest, glowing white-hot. The creature staggered. She reached Ember just as the third Reaper raised its hand again. "No," Lila said. She placed her hand on Ember's head, and she did something no elf had done in generations. She opened her mind to him. Not just thoughts, memories, feelings. The warmth of Claire's hands stitching her wound. The sound of human children laughing in Echo 7. The the taste of rain on Varelli's, the quiet pride in Brianna's voice as she gave her final order. Ember's eyes widened. Then he understood. He was not just a dragon. He was a bridge. His species had bonded with humans long ago, not as pets but as partners. They shared dreams. They shared language. They shared soul, and somewhere in his bloodline that bond remained. He turned to the Reapers, and for the first time in his life he spoke not in growls, not in hums and words. "Danielle," he said. His voice was rough, layered with echoes, but clear. "Activate Protocol Lullaby." The Reapers froze. Danielle, a name from the human archives. A linguist who had worked with dragonkind before the silence. She had built a command code into their genetic memory, a failsafe hidden in song. The Reapers recognized it. They were built to obey human commands, even dead ones. Ember spoke again, louder now. "All units, stand down. This is not war. This is remembrance." The lead Reaper's red eyes flickered. Blue light pulsed beneath its metal skin. For a moment it looked almost human. Then from deep in its core a voice answered. Soft, female, sad. Protocol acknowledged, memory restored. The Reapers knelt, not in surrender, in respect. Lila stared, breathless. Nora's voice came through the wind, carried by a hidden relay. They were built using human neural patterns, fragments of real people. Danielle's code unlocked their buried selves. The lead Reaper looked at Lila. "We were made to erase, but we remember now. We were once protectors." Lila lowered her weapons. "Then protect the truth." The Reapers rose. As one, they turned toward the sky. Their bodies began to glow, not red but gold. High above, the dead satellites of the human network stirred. Dormant for years, they now responded to the command. Lights flickered on across their surfaces. Dishes turned. Beams aligned. The sky opened. Not with weapons, with light. Projected across every planet, every moon, every station, the faces of humans appeared. Not soldiers. Not leaders. Ordinary people. A baker in New Seattle. A teacher on Mars Colony 3. A grandmother singing to her grandchild in the Caribbean arcology. Their voices filled the air, telling stories, sharing recipes, laughing, crying, living. The galaxy saw them not as enemies, but as neighbors on Cathar Prime. Crowds gathered in the streets, watching the sky in silence. On elven homeworlds, elders wept. In neutral ports, bartenders turned up the volume on old human music. The Coalition tried to block the signal, but it was everywhere. In water pipes. In power grids. In the dreams of sleeping children. The lie was broken. Lila sank to her knees, exhausted. Ember curled around her, his warmth a shield against the cold desert night. The Reapers stood guard, their red eyes now soft blue. Nora's light appeared beside them, small and steady. They did not vanish. They waited, and now the galaxy sees them. Lila looked up at the sky filled with human faces. She saw Claire among them, smiling. "We followed their silence like a compass," she whispered. Ember rested his head on her shoulder. His voice, though new, carried the weight of ages. "And it led us home." Far away on a hidden arc drifting between stars, a woman named Maya watched the broadcast. She touched the screen where Lila's face appeared. "Thank you, Sister of the Storm," she said. Then she turned to her people. "It is time." Lights flickered on inside the arc. Engines hummed to life. The humans were coming back, not with guns, not with warships, with open hands and open hearts. On Jara, the wind died down. The stars shone clear and bright. Lila closed her eyes, not to sleep, but to remember. The quiet war was over. The real one, the war for truth, for memory, for peace, had just begun. And this time they would not fight alone. Years passed like falling stars, bright, brief, and full of change. The galaxy did not heal overnight. Old wounds bled into new days. Some worlds welcomed the return of human voices with open arms. Others built walls of fear and called them law. The Coalition fractured. Some leaders stepped down in shame. Others doubled their grip, whispering that the human broadcast was a trick, a virus, a dream meant to weaken the strong. But dreams, once shared, cannot be unshared. Lila and Ember vanished after Jara. No one saw them board a ship. No one tracked their signal. They became stories told in hushed tones, of an elf who spoke for the lost and a dragon who remembered how to talk. Some said they died in the desert. Others claimed they flew into the heart of the sun. The truth was simpler. They left. They followed the signal. Deep in the outer rim, beyond the last mapped nebula, a beacon pulsed. Steady. Patient. Human. Nora had decoded its pattern before fading into quiet rest, her purpose fulfilled. The coordinates led to the galactic core. Not the violent maw of black holes and radiation, but a hidden fold in space, shielded by ancient gravity lenses and forgotten tech. Lila found it on a small scout ship built from salvaged parts, elven wood, human steel, Cathari circuits. Ember sat beside her in the cockpit, his scales duller with age but his eyes still sharp. They did not speak much. They did not need to. They had walked through fire together. Silence between them was comfort, not emptiness. The beacon grew stronger as they neared. It was not a distress call. It was a welcome. They passed through a ring of dormant satellites, human design covered in vines of crystalline moss. Then the fold opened. Space bent like cloth and they slipped through. Inside, the void was calm. Stars shone without glare. And there, floating in perfect stillness, was a fleet. Not warships. Arcs. Hundreds of them. Shaped like seeds, like shells, like open hands. Each one carried thousands. Humans. Alive, sleeping, waiting. A voice came over the comm, soft, familiar. Lila. We've been expecting you. It was Maya. The scout docked on the largest arc, named Horizon's Cradle. The airlock hissed open. Warm light spilled out. The smell of soil, bread, and rain filled the corridor. Maya stood there. Older now, her hair streaked with silver, but her eyes the same. Calm, knowing, kind. She wore simple clothes, no armor, no rank. Just a woven bracelet with tiny runes. Elven script. You came, she said. You called, Lila replied. Ember stepped forward, his claws clicking softly on the metal floor. Maya knelt and touched his snout. And you remembered, he blinked slowly. A dragon's nod. They walked through the arc. Gardens grew under artificial suns. Children ran between trees, laughing in languages both old and new. Elders taught history not as war, but as warning. Artists painted murals of Helios Prime, not as a battle, but as a farewell. We did not hide because we were weak, Maya said. We hid because we loved this galaxy too much to let it burn. Lila understood. The humans had sacrificed their place in the world to save it from something worse. Not a fleet. Not an army. A hunger that fed on rage, and in hiding they had kept the flame of peace alive. She stayed for a time, not as a soldier but as a guest. She shared stories of the Truth Keepers, of Claire's courage, of Brianna's plan. The humans listened. They wept. They thanked her, but Lila knew she could not stay. Her path was not here. It was out there, in the broken places, the doubting worlds, the corners where fear still ruled. When she left, Maya gave her a small box. Inside was a seed from Earth, wrapped in cloth stitched with human and elven thread. Plant it where hope is thin, Maya said. It will grow. Lila took it. Ember bowed his head to the humans one last time. They returned to the rim, not as fugitives, but as quiet guardians. Seasons turned. Rumors spread. On the war-torn moon of Virellis, where it all began, a young alien cadet named Kira dug through the ruins. She was not a soldier. Just a student searching for truth in a galaxy full of noise. Beneath a slab of melted metal, she found a journal. Its cover was scorched, its pages fragile, but the writing was clear. Elegant script, violet ink. She sat in the dust and read. The words spoke of loss, of friendship, of a medic with kind hands, of a dragon who learned to speak, of a choice to stand for truth, even when the world called it treason. The final entry said they called humans reckless. But recklessness is just courage without a map. We followed their silence like a compass, and in the end it led us not to war, but to wonder. Signed, Lila of the Twin Suns. Kira closed the journal, tears in her eyes. She looked up at the sky. 2 red suns hung low on the horizon. Then she saw it. High above, between the stars, a shadow moved. Not a ship, not a bird. Wings wide and dark, catching the last light, and on its back a figure small but steady. Lila and Ember did not land. They did not speak. They simply passed overhead, silent as memory. Kira stood, clutching the journal to her chest. She knew what she had to do. She would tell the story, not as legend, not as myth, as truth. Far away on 1,000 worlds, seeds began to sprout. Human songs played in market squares. Elven runes glowed beside Cathari glyphs in schools. Children learned that peace was not the absence of war, but the presence of memory. and in the quiet dark, the Arcs drifted closer. The humans were coming home, not to rule, not to conquer, but to heal. Lila watched from the edge of a new dawn, Ember at her side. She had no title, no army, no throne, only a promise kept, and a galaxy finally ready to listen.